she wakes up early, she's on the go, chasing dreams, she runs the show. Suit and heels, she's ready to fight. In the boardroom, she's dynamite. Power moves, she's got the flair. Breaks the mold, she's everywhere. Glass ceiling shatter with her stride. In her world, she owns the right. She's a business queen, ruling the scene, turning dreams into reality. With a smile so keen, she's the one they've seen, changing worlds in her own philosophy.
All right, so good afternoon, everybody. This is the Stronger Together Tribe podcast. And today we are meeting with Dr. Sandra Robertson, a little buddy of mine. Been to several of our meetups here we have locally at our networking group called the Stronger Together Tribe. So if you're in Virginia on the East Coast and you're around the Williamsburg area, you should feel free to come out and visit with us. We have monthly meetings. We usually do a dinner meeting so we can get some good food while we're talking and having a good time sharing and networking with each other. So Dr. Sandra is an author, and I don't know how many books you've written, but there are a bunch. And we're going to talk to Dr. Sandra about how she determined that she was in love with writing. I know my story came from just doing blogs on my website, and then it just exploded. And my husband teases me. He's like, "Do you write as much as you talk? Because you might have books for days." And I'm like, "Give me a chance to retire and that will happen."
Exactly.
Welcome, Dr. Sandra. I'm so happy to have you with us.
I'm happy to be here. I'm definitely happy
So
to
tell us
be
a
here.
little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into your story.
Okay, I am a mother of one, a granddaughter of one. I've been married for 44 years to the same man. High school sweethearts. What is the probability of that lasting?
You need a medal for that.
Through God and much prayer.
Yes, ma'am.
You asked the question about writing. Well, I recently finished my doctorate in 2020, and that's all we do in the doctoral program, especially the PhD program, is write. At that point, you find it's an arduous process and not as, what I want to say, relaxing, because you're under stress trying to make sure you can get that dissertation done. But after I had finished the program and retired, the pandemic really was a major factor in my retirement, because the enrollment went down at the college that I had been teaching at for over 25 years. And so that was my little set way to get a relaxation, being in a doctoral program for 9.5 years. And my son said to me one day, he said, "Mom, you're relaxing too much. What are you going to do with the rest of your life?" I'm going, "Well, I did retire. Isn't that the rest of my life?" He said, "Well, you got a doctorate. What are you going to do with the doctorate?" And so he said, "Why don't you write a book?" And I had been thinking about writing the books. I knew when I was in academia, a lot of the publishers, I wrote different articles for them, and definitely evaluated a lot of their materials. And so I said, well, you know what, let me pray about it a little bit. And childhood scars release from pain to healing was birth. And why the book was birthed is because I started noticing a lot of things about my behavior. I had a lot of mental things that needed to be adjusted, a mental mindset that needed to be adjusted, because I was always triggered. I couldn't understand where the triggering was coming from, and it really came from childhood. And so, and really, it was more of a mental illness. A lot of people do not want to equate mental illness with some of the trauma that they have in childhood, but that's exactly what it is. And as I started reflecting on that and praying, and in deep prayer, because now I had the time to really do a self introspection on myself, going inwardly and seeing, who is Sandra? I couldn't answer that question. Who is Sandra? And what makes Sandra so easily triggered? And as I start exploring that, I'm starting really getting into the mental illness for help. Because if you are not mentally stable, there's no way you're going to be able to be healthy, because everything really, the mind is the center of it all. And as I started really researching, I was found it, I researched in the doctorate program, but this was research for mental health. And so as I started researching and researching, I started finding out a lot of things about mental health and where it actually originated. You have to get my book for me to tell you.
There you go.
But from then I have written to date 7 books.
Oh,
And I love it because when I got my doctorate degree, excuse me, one of the first thing when I entered into the doctorate program is it said to us, PhDs are not your ordinary doctor. PhDs are scientists that is assigned to solve society problems. And so as I started doing research on my own mental illness, I really realized that it was universal, that it didn't just reside within Sandra. And the more I probed and the more I started collecting data, the more I started seeing that we all have some form of mental illness that is prohibiting us from really living this joyous, fulfilled life because we don't know where it is actually anchored. And so in my childhood, Scars Released from Pain to Healing, it really covers and delves a lot in that and doing those introspections and understanding what mental imprinting is from childhood that creates a mental mindset. And so a lot of times you're in relationship with someone, you say, what are they thinking that way? Because they have been mentally imprinted in that environment, because the environment mentally imprint you. And so as that environment mentally imprint you, you start thinking a certain way. And as you start thinking a certain way, you start behaving in the how you think. And so that book just really just took a life of its own. And from that book gave me the confidence to move forward. And that's when I started writing about different topics that affect society, that affects us. The next book I wrote was relationships, just a step away from the perfect one. A lot of us are in relationships that are not a perfect fit. A lot of us just wanted to get married because everyone else was married, and then the culture of that environment say that you have to be a certain age to get married, so you just grab what you can and you get married to that person and find out this is heaven, not heaven on earth, this is hell on earth. And so then you are really just feel stuck. So that book really takes you to the different stages, like courtship. And everyone say courtship, but that's the friendship stage. If you can get a partner that you're friends with, you because you like your friends, or you wouldn't be friends with them. And so, and if you once you start not liking those friends, you just let them go. So if you're in a relationship with someone, you find some value, some need there. And so it talks about courtship, dating, commitment stages, engagement stages, and the marriage stage. So it covers all that in the relationship book, just a step away from the perfect one. And then I said, I'm healing, but I don't feel that closeness with God like a lot of people say that he talks to them. He wasn't talking to me. And so that's because I wasn't intimate with God. And as you become intimate with a person, you begin to know who that person is. And so if you in a relationship and you go to, let's say it's a person's birthday and you know they don't like skiing, but you go buy them skis because you like skis, that can pose a problem. Why? Because you really don't know the person. And so we don't look at God as really trying to know him. We go to God, I need this, I need a bigger house, I need cars, I need a job, I need. And yet all of us here to satisfy a need, and God is the ultimate need. He said, I will supply all of your needs according to his riches and glory. And yet everyone feel like it's all needs. But you have to have an intimate relation with him. And so my third book was Intimate Walk with God, and where God just take you all the way back in time. It's a time travel experience where God takes you all the way back in time and turn your world upside down and get you to look at your world And notice that, guess what? Your world is not as bad as you think it is. It's just that you don't know who you are. And so he just brings you through that process to getting to know who you are. And it's a very fun read. And then the next book, I recently found out after years that I had a granddaughter who is 10 years of age.
Oh my.
Yes. Well, at the time,
Oh,
she just turned 10.
that's a big surprise.
Yes, that was a huge surprise. I learned that your children don't tell you everything. But
Yes,
anyway,
ma'am.
it's a messenger came and brought that. But I really believe that the messenger, who was his girlfriend at the time, came and she downloaded. But I was ready. I had gone through the childhood scars, healing. I was beginning to know myself better with a relationship book. God turned my world upside down with the intimate walk with God. And here she comes at the time that I was ready to receive her. And it has been looking through my fourth book, looking through my granddaughter's eyes, a journey of love and wisdom. I learned so much wisdom, but what I did with that book is went back to my grandmother, when my grandmother, and just all of the joy that I had with my grandmother. Why all the way back to my grandmother and not my mother? Because I was becoming a grandmother, where I was a grandmother, but I was evolving into being a grandmother. So I reflected on my experience with my grandmother in that book, and brings me to the current of how I'm now seeing my granddaughter. And in looking it through my granddaughter, I'm seeing me. And so it's just a very good book. And then we have, so I wrote that one, and now I just released Jealousy. Jealousy, the new cancer. How did I come up with that title? Looking on social media, listening to my friends and some of my own experiences, jealousy now has become an insidious cancer. It's an emotion that is very devastating. And a lot of times we leave it unchecked when we hear certain unpleasantries and hearing things that really doesn't align with us spiritually, and we stay in that relationship because we become attached to that person. And through this book, God took me all the way back to Julius Caesar, through the historical accounts. Julius Caesar and Brutus, where here it is, Brutus was like a best friend to him, not only a best friend, a confidant. He was related to him. And so now it goes to show you how you can get relaxed in certain environments, and all of a sudden, and not see the sign, because you're so emotionally vested in that relationship that you're not seeing the signs of jealousy. Jealousy is an insidious emotion that is very, very traumatic, and it can be very harmful. And if you are a jealous person and can identify with that, the book gives you some steps. And if you're not, the book gives you some steps on some things to look out. And then God, from there, from the historical accounts, I went into the biblical accounts with Cain and Abel, and I can go on with that. And then it has like the modern day of things that really all resonated back from what? The biblical accounts, the historical accounts. And so what we have been mentally imprinted all the way back then. And so this book really gives you a lot of good suggestions. So it's really, like I said earlier, Becky, is what's going on in society at the time, and what do we need? What is it as a scientist that I need to do to help solve that problem? My next book is Bullets at the Ham, looking at people in higher positions and how we are supposed to be servant leaders and mentor people that is under our leadership. And it doesn't have to be a work environment. It can be a church environment. It can be in your own household. And I was just had a little book launch, and one of the girls said, "I'm 60 years old and cannot find a man." And another young, "I'm 40 years old and can't find a man." And the lady that was 56, she came up to me, "I can't either."
Oh,
And they say, please write a book. Well, I say, now I've been with the same man for 44 years. How can I write a book? And so, anyway, I'm researching the topic before I give them a promise. But those are things that I'm talking about, is to really, these are some areas that are concern, and it's certain steps we have to take. And you don't find a man. God says, "Though the man, he who finds a wife finds a good thing." So you just have to be in a position of readiness so that God can do what he did in Adam to the man that's going to come to you. And so those are some of the things that, I pray about it and I research it first before I write. So my next year, 2025, is going to be as full in writing books as my 2024. And so, and as you can see, I just get my joy knowing that I'm helping someone else to relieve some of the stress and triggers in their lives.
that sounds awesome. I don't think, because I'm not a single woman anymore. It's funny to me. I have some single friends who are saying the same thing. Like, where do I go? And I'm like, don't go to the bar. And they're like, no, 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 I'm too old for that. Don't care about that. And so when I go to networking meetings, I take some of my girlfriends with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, there are some available. I mean, there are men here. I don't know if they're available or not, but there are men here. So it's kind of funny of thinking, where else can they go to meet these men? And I'm like, and I thought the same thing you're saying is, why are you so hard searching for them? They need to come find you. You're ready and available. That's great. But they need to come find you. You need to stop looking so hard. And she's like, well, you're married. You can say that. And I'm like, I didn't go searching for this one either. He found me. So I'm just saying, stop looking. It's like when someone wants to get pregnant, right? And, you're trying and trying and trying and nothing happens. And you go, forget it. I don't care anymore. I'm done. Boom. Next week you're pregnant. Like,
exactly.
Stop stressing.
That's just the law of reciprocity. As you give, it shall be given unto you. And so really, my antidote for that is stay busy. Stay in expectancy, but stay busy living your life. And then your aura is going to attract what you want. And so, and that's hard for a lot of women because, of course, I'm with the same man for 44 years. And so I haven't had that void in my life that some women have. And so I can't relate to that. So that's why I'm researching it. And I am going to interview women just to get their, to see where they are. And, it's a mental frustration there too, because I'm 60 years old. I'm almost out of here. I want to have happiness. And you missing the happiness of what you have around you. Even if you have
Exactly. They need to go on some girlfriend trips.
exactly go girlfriend. Remember Stella Got a Groove On? She went and
Girl, I have loved that movie from the first time I saw it. And every time I think
Yeah.
about that, I tell my girlfriend, go find you a younger guy like Stella did.
Yes, yes. I think we limit ourselves. So we're so busy. Oh, you date one guy and you buy the phone. He hasn't called me. He hasn't called me. He hasn't called me. Men like women who are busy taking care of themselves so that
Yes.
he will be a complement to what you already have. And the more you invest in yourself, in other words, you have to work yourself out of a relationship indirectly. You have to be so intentional with yourself and so prepared with yourself. You don't have to have a PhD, but have a skill set that's going to provide you with the resources that you need to take care of yourself. And as you're busy taking care of yourself, guess what? Your compliment will come.
I love that. That is awesome. I think I'm not a man, so I can only speak to what I think they think. I think a lot of them like independent women
Yes, they
nowadays.
do. Yes, they do.
Right? You know, that
Yes, they do.
the old mantra, like my mother was like, you know, cook and clean and take care of the kids
Yes,
and take care of the husband and take care of
yes,
the house and take.
yes, yes,
No, that's
yes.
long gone. We all need to work because we need to have two incomes
That's
usually
right. That's
to, you
right.
know, sustain a house. And so the
Right.
more I feel like the more independent you are,
That's right.
um, I think, you know, exactly like you said, they'll think of you as a compliment, not something that they have to, I've got to,
Yes.
you know, work, I've got to make
Yes.
all the money and she's going to sit at home
Yes.
and spend it all.
Yeah. That's
No,
right.
not anymore.
No, and you know what? Just listening to some of the social media podcasting and YouTube and etc. And just because I've been doing that as research, and 90% of the men says this: "What is she bringing to the table?"
Mhm.
It's
It's
no
like an
more.
interview.
Yes, it's no more of ladies. I'm just, just having this beautiful body, which is nothing wrong with that, and and being available other ways, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you are not bringing anything to the table, you won't have a table to bring something to.
Ooh, look at you. All these nuggets of wisdom. I love it.
Yes. So you have
I
to
love it.
be intentional. You have to get up and you know what? The more you are intentional with yourself and making sure that you are living this life that you want, the more you really are not paying attention to that. And that's what you're going to see. That's when he's going to come. I know my husband, because when I start writing books, he's like, what about my time?
Yep. I got the same comment from my husband.
When that little time that they're both looking at you're not doing anything with your life. But now I'm doing something with my life. And he goes, what about me? Where's my time? So I had to balance that and say, okay, no writing on the weekends, Monday through Thursday. The book will be birthed when it's time to be birthed. But I need to make sure that I take care of my man and my
Yes,
family.
I agree completely. And I didn't realize that either when I was writing the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go in my office, I would cook dinner, go to work, come home, cook dinner, go in the office, shut the door. It didn't come out until 9 or 10 o'clock or 11 or 12 o'clock. And I did that for a long time, probably a couple of months, I guess. I shouldn't say that, probably a month. And I was very focused on getting this book done because it had a deadline, like all authors do. You got a deadline, you got to get it to the publisher, she's got to do her stuff. And so I was just like, I've got to get this thing finished. And I kept rewriting and rewriting, you know, how we do.
Mm-hmm.
And it just wasn't perfect enough. And I finally got it finished, sent it in. So I was collaborating with other authors on a book. So it wasn't just mine. Got it in, sent it to her under the deadline, got everything finished. It got published. It was a #1 bestseller in like 10 hours. I couldn't
Wow.
believe it. Oh my gosh, it was fantastic. And then, of
Wow.
course, we got to buy, you know, copies of the book. And I still hadn't said anything to him, and he was just burning up mad. He was so
Yes,
like, what are
yes.
you doing? So one night, late at night, it was probably 12 o'clock because I'm a late night person. So I'm writing,
Me
I'm in the
too.
living room and I'm
Me
writing,
too.
and he comes downstairs and he's like, what exactly are you doing at midnight? And in my head, I'm thinking, I'm writing my book, but I can't tell you. So I made it a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't tell him what it was. I just said, I'm doing some work. And he's like, who are you talking to at mid? And I'm like, are you serious? I'm in my 60s. I'm not talking to anybody. I'm talking to the computer. You know, his brain was going wild, right?
Yes,
Because I
yes,
wasn't telling him anything. I was being very secretive and all this. And I'm like,
yes.
are you serious right now? So when the book was published and we got our author copies, I wrapped it all up in, you know, pretty wrapping paper
Oh,
with a
that was
bow,
sweet.
and I brought it into his office. And I had cooked a real nice dinner and brought it into the office. And I told him I had a little surprise. And he had no clue, zero clue at all. He
Oh,
unwrapped it. and tears started coming down his face.
Oh
And then
my
he made me
God.
cry. And I said, "Do you understand what I was doing now?"
Oh,
He
oh,
was like, he was so happy and mad at the same time. He was like, "Why didn't you just tell me?" I said, "It was a surprise. You know,
yeah,
you can't tell people
yeah,
about a
yeah,
surprise."
yeah.
And, and since then I've written in four books total. And so now when I get ready to write in another one, I just look at him and I say, "I'm writing in a book. I have a deadline. I'll see you in a few weeks."
Yes, yes,
And
yes,
now he knows the routine, and it's fine. But you're right. I was 100% focused on this book. I did not know that anybody existed. I had got to get this thing finished. And I learned balance. I
yeah. We have to
learned that
balance.
that's certainly, I work
Yes,
better like
yeah,
that. That's me.
yeah. That's me
But
too.
the
That's me
family
too.
does not work better
Yes,
like that.
that's right.
So,
That's right.
the deadline has to get longer and you have to do both.
That's
And
right.
so he knows now. If he sees my laptop out, he's like, "What are you doing now?" I'm like, "This is never ending, dear. I will
Yeah,
write until the day I die because I
me
have
too.
found that I love it."
I do too. I love it. I love it. I love
I'm
it.
like you. I think the more that, and somebody else said this to me one time, and I was like, "Oh, I never thought about that." We as humans, we have so much up here
Yes,
that we
yes,
have not put down on paper or pen
yes,
or on a computer.
yes,
And you really can help someone else with your
yes,
experiences.
yes,
And those
yes,
experiences are
yes.
yours and nobody understands them like you do.
That's right.
And
That's
to be able to put them on paper and
yes,
be able to share them with other people, in my opinion, is huge.
yes,
Uh, and you don't have to write a novel. I've got a friend
yes,
who's written, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 novels. I'm not writing, 2,000 pages.
yes,
No,
yes,
no.
yes.
My next goal or plan, hopefully for next year, 25, is going to be to write some children's safety books.
Oh, okay, that's
And
great.
I know, and it was very funny because I thought, "Oh, I'll probably just write one or two." And then I feel like God was like, "No, we're going to do a series here. This is not a one-time thing." And
That's
I was
right.
like, "Okay."
That's right.
Uh, I did a craft show one fall a couple years ago, and I was at a wine festival, and I was selling my books and some other stuff I sell and talking about my classes and stuff. And a man walked up to me and he was looking at all the books on the table, and he said, he's looking at the safety devices and my, concealed carry classes, and he's looking at the books, and he was like, "So where's your safety book?" And I just smiled and I said, "It's up here." And he was like, "And why isn't it here? Like on paper? Like, what are you doing?" And he was serious. I mean, he was like really not mean. He was very straightforward. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
"Who is this guy?" He was a retired police officer. And he said, "People need your knowledge and they
That's
need
right.
your information."
That's
And
right.
then and I was just like, "Okay." And then he said, "Teenagers need it and the young kids need it.
Yes,
Where is
they
your
do.
book?"
That's right.
And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I never thought." I'm thinking adults,
That's right.
higher level. And he was like, "No, that's fine too, but
Right.
the kids need a
The
book."
kids
So
definitely need it.
I was very surprised. He's the only person that has ever
Yes.
approached me like that.
Yes.
And I'm glad he told me who he was, because I was like, "Who is this rude?" "What are you telling me about my book? Blah, blah, blah." And then when he said that, I was like, "You're right. The information is up here. It needs to
That's
get
right.
out
That's right.
on paper."
That's
And it
right.
doesn't have to be anything huge. It can be a pamphlet. It can be a
That's right.
10-page self-help guide. It
That's
can
right.
be a
That's right.
2-page self-help
That's
guide.
that's right.
It does not have to be anything crazy.
That's
And
right.
once I realized that, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I have so many ideas in my head. I just don't have enough hours in the day to get it all done." But that's all right.
Exactly.
That's what schedules are for,
That's
right?
what schedules are for. That's
So
what schedules are for.
when you get an idea in your head to write a topic, how do you start with like an outline, or do you just kind of go with the flow of whatever is in your brain and you just dump it out on paper and then you organize it? How do you do that?
I don't know if you can see this. It's called a cell phone,
Oh,
and it has a recording feature on
yes.
that. And so what I start doing, and I know this may sound a little weird, I start really just start talking about what just really brainstorming on ideas, and I just started just downpouring, and I do that for about 2 weeks. And so, and then I started listening to it, and then from what I listened to, then I started doing an outline. Now, with the jealousy, the new cancer, I had my little outline. And so God sometimes will take you in a total different shift. And some of the outline will be usable and some of it is not. And that's what I think a lot of authors have a problem with, because I got my outline and I'm ready. But as you start researching and really probing into the topic, you're going to notice that you're going to have a little shifting. So what I do, get that cell phone back out. So the cell phone that has a recording feature, you can use whatever recorder you want. I use that because a lot of times I can just hit the play and just lay in my bed and I can listen to it, and and etc. But that's how I get started. I actually, first of all, I just record. I pray, ask God for his wisdom and direction. And then I do my outline. Now, my outline, usually take me about 2 to 3 days. It does, some people say it take a longer. It really doesn't, because for about 2 weeks, I've timed myself 2 weeks. So for about 2 weeks, I'm just downpouring. That's my data. And then from there, I start researching. And sometimes the research, and I learned that in my doctorate program, it's going to guide the writing, it's going to guide the outline, but it's also going to guide the tone. And so then I always, just kind of do a little research and say, who cares about this topic? That was one of the things I'm like, who cares? And so as I start researching on Amazon and seeing what books that they have on this particular topic, is it oversaturated? What are some of the topics and things of that nature? Just really researching. And I can't just say I care, because I'm just one person. And so as I start just really probing and seeing that it is a huge need for this particular book, then I go with it. It's very few books that I don't go with. Sometimes I just, and then I prioritize it. So especially at the beginning of the year, I may have a couple of topics. Now, God told me that he needs me to write 25 books.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got a lot of books to write. And
yeah, you do.
Before I leave this earth, so my husband said, you may want to slow down. You had number 7 going into 8. You're writing them too fast. You're writing them too fast. And so that's what he put on my heart. So I hope I don't have to write 25 books before I start really seeing some money. But
I agree with that.
yeah, because they say struggling artists, you do have to, because you have to, especially when you're first starting out, it's a lot of overhead, because you have to pay, someone to format the book for the book cover. You have to pay people to help you market it, and so it can be a little expensive. I thank God for the people that he has put in my life that I don't have to pay but a fraction of what some of these other people have to pay. I mean, a fraction. And so God has been good in that regard. So to answer your question, yes, I do use an outline, but I do record a lot first. And then as I record, I start actually coding it. That means just kind of categorizing it to see if I see a theme coming out of that. And if I do see a theme, how many themes do I actually see? And is it enough to move forward with the book?
Now, see, that makes sense, because sometimes I'll think of a topic at like 11:30 p.m. when I'm trying to go to sleep. And sometimes I'll say to myself, all right, Becky, is that your own brain, or is that God telling you to get up and write that down? And, so many times I have dismissed it and go, I'll remember it for the morning. I know I will, and I never do. And I'm like, Becky, when are you going to learn? Get up and write this down. Holy Spirit is dropping it in your brain for a reason. Get up and move.
Well, just have your phone next to you. Have your phone,
I do. It is.
Hit the record and go for it.
There you go. There you go. I need to, because I just sometimes I have these great ideas and I'm like, yep, I'll remember this tomorrow morning. I won't have any problem. Never do. I never do.
You don't. So you have to record it immediately. And one of the we was at a seminar at church, and one of the things they say don't do is have any electronic device in the bed with you, because it will prohibit you from going to sleep. Well, since
Yep.
I'm an author and I get a lot of my ideas, I may wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and God then told me a couple of things. I grab my phone and I just start recording, and then after that, hit it, and then I go back to sleep. So it has its pros and cons. And I don't bring the iPad with me. I just bring my phone. I don't bring the iPad in the bed because I will scroll. But my phone, I just put, and I grab for it. So it has helped me a whole lot.
I think that recording is great because you might have tidbits throughout the day,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
I cannot tell you how many notebooks I have in my backpack. I probably have 4 or 5 different, they're little notebooks, but notebooks in my backpack, because one is for one topic, one is for that other topic, one is for this thing at work. And I've got notes in every book, all different. It's like, so I've started getting 3-ring binders, and I've started taking these little notepads out, take the pages out and glue them or stick them onto like a big 8.5 by 11 sheet and put it in my 3-ring binder. So then at least I've got the topic all in one binder. But it's crazy. I grab whatever notepad I have. So I love your idea of recording on the phone.
Yes, it works. And one good thing, you can label it. So you can
Okay,
label
yeah.
it. And so once you label, then you can kind of characterize them and group them all together. And so when I'm getting ready to write on especially the relationship book, and so and then I just had all of it. I labeled relationship, and I say 1, 2, 3, 4. I knew I had that first thought here, second, third, fourth, and now I even put the date on it. I don't know why I'm putting the date. I'm really getting organized here, but I actually put the date. I might just say like today is what, 7/31, 7/31, 2024. And so then I have that. I don't know why I'm doing that. I guess because when I was in my doctorate program, you had to do all that stuff, but I definitely do that. I'm gonna tell you, it saves a lot of time, and it really keeps me looking at that outline and going, it actually helped me birth an outline. But then too, when I go back, I'm like, okay. And then some things I delete, and now I don't like it. So I didn't waste time really writing anything down. I don't like it. I discard it. So try it.
These have been great, great, great tips for coming up with ideas for books, coming up for how to start an outline, how to capture your notes in your head or on a phone or whatever you've got. And we're going to close for today, but I am so happy that you came on with me so we could talk about this. I love authoring and writing, and all that is so good. And now I've learned it is good for our soul.
Yes, it is.
And our hearts and our minds. And I love it. Love it. Love it.
Yes,
all right.
it
Well,
is.
thank you so much for coming on, Dr. Sandra. And for the rest of you, we'll have another podcast soon. See you
All
guys.
right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Welcome.